What is immunity? Simply put, it's our ability to fight diseases. Why is it important? Especially in today's world when we're surrounded by a host of health issues. Having this resilience to fight back a disease gives us the much needed stability for future. That our health is not just something that we have in the presence, but immunity is a reassurance that we have it for future as well. Hi, I'm Garima, and I'm going to be sharing some learnings from my experience, ongoing journey of flipping the immunity switch. And I must start with an admission that in the last 2 years, I actually felt that my immunity had been decreasing. My basis for this was the fact that while my health would be fine at home or at work, in the last 2 years, I had gone out for four retreats or vacations with people, with groups of people. And in each of those, when I had come back, I actually landed up with a health issue that took anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to resolve. Almost consistently in all cases, it would start with a sore throat, a funny feeling in the throat, would then become a cough, cold, fever, and the whole process of recuperation took 2 to 3 weeks. This time, when I was going on a similar retreat with the largest group of people I have been with in so far in these 2 years, I actually felt that this fear was coming up in me, and not just me and all the loved ones, because they had seen this pattern. Every time I had gone out, I had landed up with an issue, so they were naturally very apprehensive. So was I of going there. And I sat with this fear a few days before the retreat, is when my inner work of looking deeply at immunity started. The first step was to acknowledge my fears, just acknowledging I am afraid of going out there because I don't know if my body, energy, mind, and emotions would be able to take it. And to not park this, ignore this, suppress this fear, but to actually see the message that it was giving to me that I need to do something differently. The way things are currently, it's not working for me. And what is it that I need to do differently was to turn the lens inwards, to stop focusing on the external trigger, but actually look at my actions. So, in each of these four beautiful places that I'd been to, there were very easy ways to justify why I had fallen ill. Many times it was not just me, people with me had also fallen ill. In one of the cases, actually twice when I traveled, there was COVID, was going around. We were well aware of that fact. Viral fever was completely at its peak. And so it was natural in some ways. That was a justification. It's going around, it's okay to land up with a virus. In one case, I was traveling in an AC car which was using some chemical based air freshener, and chemicals don't suit me. I'm not used to being in the AC. So that became the external justification. I was an AC car with chemicals. In one case, there was a lot of temperature difference. We were going into the heat, very hot sun, and then suddenly it would become cool. So then there was temperature difference. I went to a hill station, so there was that justification. In one trip, there was travel to 3 cities, flight travel involved. So, long story short, there were just many, many, many external ways to justify why this was happening. But the fact is that all of these were just external triggers. What was common is actually my ability to respond to those, which is my immunity. And as I reflected on it, I could actually see certain common threads on things that I was doing or not doing that were actually causing my immunity to, in that moment, become low. Something as simple as not keeping enough time for rest and relaxation, to be with myself. I was completely going out and with groups of people all the time. I was not recharging my energies. So I started seeing some of these internal patterns that were actually driving my immune response. And as this perspective started shifting, I realized that the fear was important because it was helping me see the message of my body. But here is where I needed to shift now from fear to faith. I could let the fear drive me, and I knew that the fear itself will reduce my immunity. The alternate response is to see myself, the design of nature, with faith, to break preconceived notions of what immunity actually even means, and to take charge of my well-being. So a few things that I realized from a perspective shift was, one is actually looking at animals, dogs, cats, strays, pets out there when it's raining. The weather is changing all the time. They're in the rain, but I wasn't seeing them sneezing, coughing, and becoming unwell like most of us around, including me, seem to have. And so that was something, that an indication that we don't need to be afraid of the rains or hot and cold temperature. We have somewhere the ability to deal with this. Forget animals. In my own experience, when I reflected, while I came up with these 4 trips, 4 out of 4, I had fallen ill, I also realized that there are some other trips that I had taken, not with groups of people. These were solo trips or with one other individual involved, where everything was okay. Even for an extended period of time, 8 to 10 days, I was actually completely fine. So that told me it can't just be about external things. There is something I'm doing or not doing in these situations which is causing my body to behave differently. And therefore, my immunity is in my hands. I need to decide what to do, to not do, or to do differently so that my body is able to cope up. This is where I decided on this trip to actually made a decision to listen to my body. In previous trips, my throat would start getting that funny feeling, and I tell me that something is happening, something you're doing, Garima, that's not working for you. And this time, I actually decided to use the signal of the body much earlier rather than wait for it to get compounded. So the moment earlier on in this trip, when my body started giving me these signals, I said, let me pause and see what I can do differently. And what I could do differently was to enlist the support of various tools. It's ahar, what I'm eating, when I'm eating, vyayam, how I'm moving, how I'm relaxing, my vichar, how I'm taking care of my mental well-being, taking that time for myself also. Vigyan, what is the philosophy of life? How do I apply it in my day-to-day actions, even in a group retreat? And finally, Bihar, which is how do I use leisure? How do I use nature to support me in my healing process? And I'm going to share some more videos with learnings on each of those tools. But every single one of these tools actually helped me to take care of my well-being. And finally, to do all of this with peace, love, and joy. Using all these tools doesn't mean that our day becomes a chore, that it's just a series of things to follow and the joy gets sucked out. I actually managed to figure out that it is possible to do all of these things with peace, love, and joy as well. And so finally, what I ended up doing is, along with the things that I did to take care of myself, I uh, ticked almost every checkbox of things I could do to fall ill. I traveled in a car with AC going and coming. There was a lot of constant temperature differences. I was cycling in the rain. I swam in a cold pool. I did everything, being in the sun suddenly. There is still a viral going around when I went for this trip. I had outside food, played lots and lots of games and exerted myself, stayed up late at night, woke up early in the morning. So I did everything possible that could make me fall ill. But because I was listening to my body and because I was also taking actions along with it, I'm happy to say that I have broken my 2 year pattern, and I'm now stepping out into more outings, hoping and that these lessons are going to stay with me. And that's my story with learning to rephrase and reshift my perspective towards immunity.